At exactly 4:17 am, radar station across the Pacific suddenly lights up. Hundreds of Chinese ballistic missiles launched from the mainland.
China's launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean has stirred unease in the region.
Cyber attacks crippled Taiwan's banking system.
Let's just take a closer look now at Taiwan's allegations. It has flagged a 6% increase in China's cyber attacks from 2024.
Entire district in Taipei lose power.
Dispersing fine chemically treated carbon filaments designed to short-circuit high-voltage power infrastructure.
Chinese fighter jets roar across the Taiwan Strait.
Taiwan is reporting a big uptick in Chinese military activity around the country. The Defense Ministry says it monitored 28 Chinese aircraft near Taiwan on Tuesday.
And inside the White House Situation Room, one question changed the future of the world. Do we intervene or not? Because if China invades Taiwan, this would not be another regional conflict. It would become the most dangerous global crisis since World War II. A conflict involving the world's two largest superpowers, the global economy, artificial intelligence, advanced microchips, nuclear power, and the future of the world's power itself. But here's what makes it more terrifying. This scenario is no longer science fiction.
The draft reports say that Beijing is refining its military options to take the territory by brute force.
In recent years, US military officials, CIA directors, NATO leaders, and Chinese commanders have openly warned that a Taiwan conflict is becoming increasingly possible. In 2021, Admiral Phillips Davidson, then head of US Indo-Pacific Command, warned Congress that China could attempt action against Taiwan within a decade. Since then, military drills have intensified. Warships shadow each other across the Pacific, and China now sends fighter jets near Taiwan almost daily.
Starting from December 29th, the PLA Eastern Theater Command is dispatching its Army, Navy, Air Force and Rocket Force troops to conduct joint military drills codenamed Justice Mission 2025 in the Taiwan Strait and areas to the north, southwest, southeast and east of the Taiwan Island.
So tonight, we are breaking down why one island of 23 million people become the most dangerous flashpoint on Earth. Because the future of 21st century could depend on Taiwan. Taiwan looks tiny on maps, an island roughly 100 miles away from China's coast, smaller than many US states, but economically Taiwan becomes the single most important island in the modern world. Why? Because Taiwan manufactures advanced semiconductor chips powering modern civilization. Your smartphone, AI systems, military satellites, electric vehicles, data centers, missile guidance system, and even the F-35 fighter jets.
Taiwan is protected by a silicon shield. Its critical role in the global semiconductor supply chain has allowed the island's economy to thrive, despite the constant threat of a Chinese invasion dragging on growth.
And the center of this technological empire is one company, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. TSMC roughly produce 90% of world advanced semiconductor chips. The tiny processor measures in nanometers that power the AI revolution. Without them, the modern technology slows to crawl. Factories shut down, car production collapse, cloud computing weaken, financial markets panic, and global supply chains freeze.
Really comprehensive, sophisticated semiconductor industry, the vast majority of the world's most sophisticated chips that you need in everything from electrical vehicles to your smartphone to sophisticated weaponry are made here.
In 2024, the semiconductor industry worth over 600 billion and Taiwan sits directly in its center.
Taiwan's economy is powering ahead. As a manufacturer of the world's most cutting-edge chips, the economy grew nearly 9% last year.
And one US former defense official called Taiwan the strategically most important real estate in the world. Because whoever controls advanced chips could shape the future of artificial intelligence, military dominance, economic power, and global influence itself. And Beijing knows. To understand this conflict, you have to go to 1949. China was collapsing into civil war. On one side, Mao Zedong's communist forces. On the other side, nationalist government led by Chiang Kai-shek, the communist won. But the defeated nationalists fled to Taiwan, and for the Chinese Communist Party, the war was never truly ended. To this day, Beijing considered Taiwan a breakaway provision, not an independent nation, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping has repeatedly declared that reunification is inevitable, peacefully if possible, by force if necessary.
We start in China, where President Xi Jinping has said reunification with Taiwan must be fulfilled. His comments come at a time of heightened military tension in the region.
For China, Taiwan is not simply territory. It represents national pride, historical humiliation, political legitimacy, military security, and China's return as global superpower. Because geographically, Taiwan sits inside what military strategists called the first island chain, a defensive arc stretching from the Japan to the Philippines that limits China's access to the Pacific Ocean. If China controlled Taiwan, its navy could project power far deeper into the Pacific. America's influence across Asia could weaken dramatically, and Beijing could gain a strategic military advantage over one of the most economically important regions on Earth. That's why Taiwan is emotionally explosive inside China. Many Chinese citizens grow up hearing that
unification is the hope of all Chinese people. If China can be unified, all Chinese will enjoy a happy life.
Reunification is a historic mission, and Xi Jinping has tied that mission directly to what he calls the Great Reunification of Chinese nation, which means this issue is not fading away, it's intensifying. Officially, the United States does not recognize Taiwan as an independent country. This is part of long-standing One China policy. But unofficially, America is deeply connected to Taiwan. The United States sell Taiwan billions of dollars in weapons. American warships regularly move through nearby waters, and US forces train throughout the Pacific, preparing for exactly this type of scenario. But why? Because if Taiwan falls, the geopolitical shockwave could transform Asia.
At Davos in January, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the single biggest threat to the world economy, the single biggest point of single failure, is that 97% of the high-end chips are made in Taiwan. Bessent went on to say that if Taiwan were blockaded, or if that capacity were destroyed in a conflict, it would be what he called an economic apocalypse.
Countries like Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Australia could begin questioning whether the United States would defend its ally or not. And suddenly, China could emerge as dominant power in the Pacific. That's why Taiwan has become larger than Taiwan itself. It's not viewed as the test of global credibility between Washington and Beijing, a new Cold War, but unlike the US-Soviet Cold War, America and China are deeply economically connected. In 2024, trade between the two countries still total hundreds of billions of dollars. American companies rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing. China relies heavily on global exports, and both sides understand something dangerous. A war over Taiwan would not stay regional. It could trigger the largest economic shock since the Great Depression. Now, the conflict is even getting bigger. Artificial intelligence, because many experts believe the country dominating advanced AI could dominate the future economy, the future military, and possibly the new world orders. But advanced AI requires advanced semiconductors, the most sophisticated chips on Earth. That's where the US-China chip war began. In 2022, the United States launched sweeping export restrictions designed to cut China off from the advanced semiconductor technology, high-end AI chips, chip-making equipment, lithography system, even restriction on American engineers working with certain Chinese firms. Washington says these restrictions are necessary for national security.
China has accelerated its efforts to build homegrown chip-making capacity. Since 2022, the U.S. has been gradually introducing export restrictions on advanced chip manufacturing equipment to China. Since then, China has ratcheted up investment in its domestic semiconductor industry.
Beijing calls them technological containment economic warfare, and Taiwan sits directly in the middle of this escalating confrontation, like a pressure point between two giants, because whoever leads in semiconductors may lead in AI. quantum computing, cyber warfare, autonomous weapons, and next generation military systems. Which means Taiwan is no longer just about geography, it's about the future technological balance of power. So, China could invade Taiwan? Technically, yes, but military experts warn it would be one of the most difficult invasions in the modern history.
At the moment, invasion for China is a very risky option.
But why? Because China would need to cross the Taiwan Strait, a body of water roughly 100 miles wide with rough seasonal weather, narrow landing zones and heavily defended coastline. Military analysts compare the challenge to a modern version of D-Day, except for advanced missiles, satellites, drones, submarines and cyber warfare. China would require thousands of troops, massive naval formation, air superiority, missile barracks, cyber attacks, space-based intelligence and constant logistical surprise. Even Taiwan has spent decades preparing defenses, underground bunkers, anti-ship missiles, mobile rocket systems, sea mines and urban warfare planning for major cities like Taipei.
Taiwan's military said it had established a response center, deployed appropriate forces, and carried out a rapid response exercise. These are part of plans devised by Taiwan in case of a Chinese drill turning into a sudden attack.
But the biggest variable is United States, because if American forces intervene, the conflict instantly becomes global.
A great relationship with President Xi, and he hasn't told me anything about it. I certainly have seen it, but he hasn't told me anything about it, and I don't believe he's going to be doing it.
Does it worry you?
No, nothing worries me.
US aircrafts attack submarines, long-range stealth bombers, Japanese bases, Pacific Alliance, and then comes the nightmare scenario, escalation. Because once American and Chinese forces begin directly attacking each other, nobody truly knows where the line stops. Global shipping routes could collapse, stock market crash, oil price surge, cyber attacks spread internationally, satellite system become targets, supply chains freeze, and suddenly a war over island has become a worldwide economic emergency. Thousands of missiles were fired, major naval losses, destroyed aircraft carriers, economic collapse across Asia. Even the winner could emerge devastated. But maybe the most dangerous part of entire crisis is uncertainty. Nobody truly knows what China will do, how Taiwan will respond, whether the United States would fully intervene, or how quickly the escalation could spiral. History shows something terrifying. Major war often begin, leaders believe the other side will back down, until nobody cares. Right now, all the sides say they want peace, but simultaneously, all the sides are preparing for war. China increasing military exercise around Taiwan and the US strengthen allies across the Pacific. Japan expands defense spending, weapon sale rise, military rhetoric intensifies, and even more sends a signal. The Pacific is becoming tense year after year, not because war is guaranteed, but because the stakes are being enormous. Taiwan is more than an island. Its fault line is between democracy and dictatorship, economic globalization and separation, old superpowers and rising ones, artificial intelligence and military dominance, peace and potential disasters. And somewhere tonight, military planners in Beijing, Taipei, Washington, Tokyo and the Pentagon all are gaming out the same question.
The situation is getting worse and we need to prepare for the worst possible scenario.
China-Taiwan relations have been at one of their lowest ebbs for many years. This is a self-governing island, but China sees it as part of its own territory, and President Xi Jinping of China has made it a very explicit aim that he would like to bring Taiwan back under Chinese control.
If the crisis begins, what happens next? Because the next global conflict may not begin in Europe or in the Middle East, it could begin in the Taiwan Strait. And if Taiwan becomes the center of next global crisis, the world economy, artificial intelligence, and the future balance of power could all change overnight. If you enjoy this video, subscribe for more. For more videos like global conflicts, military strategies, AI wars, and the future of world power. See you soon. Bye.